Hi everyone! In this tutorial, I'll be going over the basics of how to read my Mosaic Crochet charts and how to work the stitches that will create our small mosaic square. You can find the chart to work along with me over on my blog. I'll leave a link in the description below. So this method would be closest to the inset crochet mosaic method, except I change it up just a little bit. So for anyone already familiar with inset mosaic, you might find this method has a few adjustments. So let's get into how I create my mosaic squares. So first, let's look at the chart for this tutorial. I make my charts using an app called Knitting Chart. I love it because I can set the gauge so my chart will actually come out proportional to the square that I'm looking to create. And so you'll see my individual stitch squares are not perfect squares, but are set to the gauge of my swatch. If you're interested in looking into this app, I'll also leave a link to that in the description below as well. Let's go over some of my mosaic chart basics. First, you'll notice the numbers running along the top of the chart. These are the stitch count. So this square is made over 15 stitches. Next, you'll see the numbers running up the side of the chart. These are the row numbers, but you'll notice there are only odd numbers, and this is because my charts only have the right side rows marked. So every row you see on this chart is a right side row. My squares are worked back and forth. So why are there no wrong side rows on here? Well, because all wrong side rows are single crochet only. Yep, every one of them. So it makes the chart easier to read if I leave them off, as they're all the same, always. So every second row you get a break from reading the chart. Kind of nice that way. Now let's address the square colors. You'll be working with only one color for every 2 rows, so no need to carry your colors across your work. But I hear you saying, then why are there different colored squares on the same row? The only square you need to look at for color is the first square of the right side row. This will be the color you will be using for the next right side and wrong side row, so for the next 2 rows. All the other squares have colors only to show you where the double crochet stitches will be worked over the single crochet stitches that are already lying there, and this is going to help you see where the pattern is going to start to show up. This makes it easier for you to see where you are and if you're working the square properly when you look back at your work. You'll see how this works as we work our sample. And finally, because you will only be working one color over 2 rows, you will only be changing colors at the beginning of the right side rows. And as long as you are only working with 2 colors, which is the usual mosaic, you will never have to cut your yarn. Just carry it up the side. The only time you'll be cutting is if you're working a contrast in multiple colors, but that's for another tutorial. We won't be addressing that here. So let's just stay focused on our basics. Now for the stitch symbols. The blank square is a single crochet, so you work that as usual, working under both loops of your stitch, just like a regular single crochet. The arc symbol is a single crochet back loop only. So this stitch is worked just like a single crochet, but you only work it in the back loop of the stitch. And you're going to leave that front loop unworked for later. Now the X will be a double crochet front loop only 2 rows below. So it's the stitch that's going to get worked into that front loop that we didn't work on the back loop only stitch. So you're going to go down and look for that front loop you left unworked in the previous right side row, and then this is the one you'll be working your double crochet into. So when you come across the row, you're going to be looking for those front loops. That's where your double crochets will show up, and they should line up with the X's on the chart. So below every X, there's going to be an arc on the chart. Once you work your double crochet into that stitch, you will skip the single crochet in the row below that lies behind it, so as not to increase your stitch count. So it's very important that you always count your stitches or your chart isn't going to work. Now let's put this into action and actually work our sample square. And again, if you want to follow along with the actual chart, you can find that over on my blog. You can check out the link below. So we're going to start by chaining 16. So we have 15 stitches on our chart, and we need to chain 16 for our beginning chain, because you always need the number of stitches plus 1. And we're going to go ahead and make a slip knot, whatever way works best for you. Sometimes I just make a loop, turn it into a pretzel, and pick up that middle loop, pull it tight and pull it up to the hook. So we're going to go ahead and chain 16. And remember, don't chain too tight because you don't want that the bottom edge of your square to pucker. And we'll just go ahead here until we get 16 of these. So there's 16. And now we're on row 1 of our chart, and row 1 is our right side. All odd number rows are the right side of the chart. So you can see here on the chart, row 1 is all blank squares. And the blank square, again, is a single crochet, a regular single crochet. So we're going to go ahead and work a row of single crochet across our right side row number 1. So we go into the second chain from the hook and just work a regular single crochet, working into that top loop of the beginning chain. Your first row is a little bit different in the sense that you're always working into the top loop of the chain. Everybody does it a little different. I just work into this top loop here. And we're going to work our way across, and we're going to have 15 single crochet, and we'll be completed row 1 of the chart. So here is row 1 of the chart. Now we are going to chain 1 and turn our work. So now we're working across the wrong side of our work. All even rows are wrong side rows, and all even rows are not on the chart because they are all plain single crochet rows. So it's easiest to leave them off the chart so they don't muddle up the chart with extra rows when they're all single crochet rows. So that's the easy part about all the wrong side rows, is you know that when the wrong side of the work is facing you, you know you're on a straight single crochet row. So we're going to work our way back across, and this is row number 2. Now when we get to the end of row number 2, this is our last stitch here, you pull up 1 loop, but I don't complete the single crochet with the blue. This is where I change my color. And I'm going to use this kind of off-white beige color. And I'm just going to pull up a loop and finish off that last single crochet, and that's how I change my color. Then I chain 1 and I turn the work again, and we are now working on row number 3. So for row number 3, our first square is a blank square, and it's always the color that you're going to be working with. So you can see it's the B shade, which in this case I'm using as an off-white. And my first stitch is just a regular single crochet through both loops on the hook. The second square is an arc. So the second square requires us to work in the back loop only. Now again, it's a different color, but we ignore the colors from there on because we will always be working this row in color B. Whatever the first square is going to be worked all the way across. And again, the reason for that square being a different color is because it's just showing you that the next row is going to have a double crochet working down over top of it. So it helps you see what the design is going to look like. So again, it's an arc. So we're going to work into the back loop only of the next stitch right there. So we single crochet. And then the next stitch is a square. So again, it's a single crochet. So in we go, single crochet, and never pulling too tight. Your tension will be, you'll get consistent with this as you go, but don't pull too tight on these because you want to be able to get back into these stitches, these front loops from the 2 rows up. So again, the next stitch is an arc. So we go back loop only. And then again, we have a solid square. So you can see that this is going to repeat across the entire right side row. So we're going to keep on working our way across until we get to the end of row 3. So on the chart, your second last stitch should be an arc, back loop only. If for some reason you're not ending up there, then go back and see if you missed a stitch. And our last stitch is a single crochet. And again, you should have 15 stitches. So at this point, you're going to look at your work And you're going to notice that pattern, how every second stitch looks a little different than the one in front of it. And you should have 15 stitches. If for any reason you have a different number, then it's best to rip that row out and go back and make sure that you were at 15 stitches. So when you're learning mosaic, it's best to count every row, because if you go off by one stitch and it's very easy to pick up a stitch or lose a stitch, then your whole pattern is not going to work. So it's always best to count every row when you're learning how to do this. You'll start to see, as you get used to it, you'll start to notice if you're off. So again, that was our right side row, and we are going to chain one, and now we're going to turn and go to our wrong side. And this one is going to be row number 4 and not on the chart, and it's just plain single crochet. So work your way across, and I'll meet you back here at the end of row 4. And then we're going to work into our last stitch of row 4, pull up a loop, leaving those 2 loops on the hook. We're going to change our color. So we drop color B and we pick up color A. Now there's 2 ways to do this. You can always be picking up from the same side, so your colors twist up the side, which I love the look of, but your yarn is going to get twisted, so you'll have to untwist it to make it easier to work with. Or you can always pick up one from the front, one from the back, so your yarns will never twist, but I don't find that it looks as neat on the front. So it's personal preference. So we're going to pick up the blue and finish off this single crochet. So that's color A. Chain 1 and turn your work. And we're back to the right side row. So we're now on row number 5. So let's look at our chart again. So the first square is a blank square. The first square is always going to be blank square in this method. And it's color A. So we know we're using the right color, and we create a regular single crochet. The next square is an X. So this is the first time we've come across the X. The X again is a double crochet in the front loop only, 2 rows below. So again, we're going to go down, and you're going to find that front loop that we did not work in row number 3. And you're going to work into that using a double crochet. So you want to wrap the yarn around the hook, and then you take your hook, go down, and come up from the bottom, working into the front loop only. And it will be the same color as the yarn that you're using right now. So wrap the yarn around, pull through, and then finish off your double crochet. And again, it's lying in front of your work, and you can see now why on the chart that square was a colored square, because now it's covering the stitch that's underneath it. So the next stitch is going to be a blank square. So again, we have to remember to skip the stitch behind the double crochet. If we don't, we're going to end up with too many stitches. So we miss that stitch, go into the next one, and it's a single crochet. And that's going to be what we repeat across this row. So next stitch, we go down and find that front loop. We wrap the yarn around, come down and up from underneath, and finish off our double crochet. Then you're going to miss the stitch behind, and you're going to work the next stitch, which is a blank square, and that's a single crochet. So this chart's a pretty basic one. You're only ever using one symbol per row, in the sense that it's either the X or the arc. Once the designs get more complicated, you'll be using both in one row. So see how these 2 double crochets are lying in front of the work, and you're starting to see the design. So our next stitch is an X. Wrap the yarn around and go down and find that front loop sitting right out front. And then we finish our double crochet. Next stitch, miss the stitch behind, and single crochet in the next one. So we're going to repeat that across, working our double crochets in front of our work, and then missing a stitch and single crochet. And again, down we go to find that double crochet. Oops. And then everything falls off my hook. Double crochet, missing the stitch behind, single crochet. And again, double crochet almost at the end of this row, single crochet, missing the stitch behind, and then second last stitch is an X, double crochet in front loop, and ending with a single crochet. We always end with a single crochet. You know you've got the right number of stitches. So now we take another look at this row, and you can see now how the pattern has started. Your double crochet stitches in color A are sitting to the front of the work, and they're covering the stitches that lie behind them. And then in between, you can see your regular single crochets in color B still sitting there. So it gives you this beautiful little mosaic look. When you look at the back of the work, from the top here, you can see the missed stitches. So double crochet was here and there's a missed stitch behind it. So there should be a pattern to that as well. And there should always be a missed stitch behind every double crochet. So we're going to chain and turn our work. We're now on row 6 and it's a regular single crochet. So work a regular single crochet across here and I'll meet you back at the end of this row. Okay, and we're working into our last stitch and you're going to drop your color A and pick up your color B. And you're going to finish off the stitch. So taking a look at the back of the work, it's always going to be stripes. So it makes it easy to count your rows because every stripe is 2 rows. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can count them 2, 4, 6. And now you'll know that you're on row 7. So that's an easy way if you've lost track of what row you're on to figure it out from the back. So let's chain 1, turn our work, and we're back to the right side row. So let's go back to our chart and look. First stitch is a single crochet in color B. So we know we're in the right space. Next stitch is an arc. So we're going to be single crochet in back loop only. And then the next stitch is also an arc. So our pattern is going to be offset. So single crochet in back loop only again. And then a regular single crochet, so a blank square. Next stitch is an arc, so single crochet back loop only, and then a regular square. And that's how we work across this row in color B. So we're alternating regular single crochet and single crochet in back loop only all the way across until we get to our last 2 stitches, and we're doing another arc and then a regular single crochet. There we have row number 7. And now again you can see the pattern here. Because we're offsetting, we had 2 arcs at the beginning, and then we alternated until we got to the end when ended with 2 arcs and a regular single crochet. So now we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and again we're on row 8, which is an even number and the wrong side. And again, you'll know the wrong side because it's always in stripes. And we're just working a single crochet across our work. So I'll meet you back at the end of row number 8. So again, in our last stitch, we pull up 1 loop, and this is where we change our color. And we're going to drop color B, pick up color A, and finish off that single crochet, and then chain 1. So before we turn again, let's look at the back of our work. And again, we know because it's stripes. And we can count 2, 4, 6, 8. We just finished row 8. So now we're going to row number 9. So turn your work. we look back at our chart, and row number 9 starts with a blank square in color A, so we know we're in the right place. So single crochet. And I just want to show you the edge here. See how the way I carry my yarn up, it kind of twists the yarn like a barber's pole or a candy cane swirl. And that's the way I like to do it. It does twist your yarn again. It does twist your balls of yarn. So you do have to untwist them, but I find that's not a big deal because I like the look of this. So we are on row 9. We've done our first single crochet, and now the next stitch is an X. So again, we're going to go wrap the yarn around, go down and find the loop. So there's 2 right beside each other. You want the first one. And again, if there isn't a loop there, then you've probably missed it. And the best thing to do is rip your work back and do that row correctly, because then it looks more consistent. I have tried to fudge it where if I miss one, I think, well, I'll just find a loop here to go into. You could do that, but it doesn't give a consistent look, and you'll know it's there. And you're only ripping back 2 rows. So the nice thing with piecework is I'm only ripping back 15 stitches on this row. If I was working on a very large piece that was all mosaic without squares, I might be tempted to fudge it. So our second stitch is an X, and we're going to go down into that first missed loop and finish our double crochet. And then the next stitch is an X. So wrap the yarn around and go and look for that next front loop and finish your double crochet. So now you have 2 double crochets lying next to each other, and you will be missing 1 single crochet for each of those double crochets. So you're missing 2 full stitches at the back. And then the next stitch is a blank square, so that will be a regular single crochet. One of the reasons I also like this method is that I can go a little bit longer runs with the double crochet at the front without having the loose chain loops at the back. It's all secured to each other because you're working into the front loops. So you have a little pocket back here, but that disappears quickly on the next row because it's a single crochet all the way across. So again, we're going to work an X. So we wrap the yarn around, go down and look for that front loop that we missed, and we work into it. And the next stitch is a single crochet, missing the one behind the double crochet. And that's our pattern. So an X, so double crochet in front of our work. And the next stitch is a single crochet, missing the stitch behind the double crochet. So keep on working, alternating those 2 stitches as it says on row 9. And we'll make it to the end of our row. And we're going to see that there are 2 X's before we get to that last stitch. So again, make sure you work into the proper loop. Don't jump ahead and work into the next one because you need to work 2. You need to work into each of them. You're going to miss the 2 stitches behind, and then you're going to work a regular single crochet to end your row. Chain 1. Before we turn our work, I just want to take a look here, and you can see how the pattern is now developing. It's a little bit of an offset pattern, and it gives you this nice grid look. So we're going to turn our work, see how the wrong side is stripes, and you're just going to work a regular single crochet across this row. And that will be row 10, and I will meet you at the end of this row, and we'll take a look at what we've done. So we're now ready to change our color. So drop color A, pick up color B, and finish off that single crochet, chain 1, and turn our work. So we are now ready. Let's take a look at where we should be. Let's go back to our wrong side before we turn that work. And let's count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We just completed row 10. So we're going on to row number 11. So you're going to recognize this row because it looks the same as row number 3. So we are actually now repeating ourselves. So you can see a lot more of the design happening now. So let's go ahead and do single crochet. And now we go ahead, just like in row 3, single crochet in back loop, so we have an arc, and then a regular single crochet. Now again, make sure you've counted your stitches so that you're not ending up with too many or too few. That's possible too. You always want to have the right number of stitches so that your pattern always lines up and always works out. Okay, and we get to the end, and we end with a regular single crochet, chain 1. And we're going to go ahead and turn our work and work a wrong side row. That was row 11, this will be row 12. So go ahead with row 12 and I'll meet you back at the end of this one. And here we are in our last stitch, and now we're ready to change our color again, pulling up color A, finishing off the single crochet, chaining 1. Before we turn again, we'll count our rows, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So we'll be going on to row number 13. So turn our work and let's take a look at what we've got here. We're on to row number 13, which has a blank square in color A, so we know we're in the right spot. So at this point, we only have a few more rows until we're completed. So we have row 13, 15, and then 17. I'm going to get you to go ahead and do row 13 and 15, and I'll meet you back here at 17. So work 13, 14, 15, 16, and I'll meet you back here for 17. So here we are at row 17, so we're almost finished our square. We just have 2 rows left to do. So I'll go ahead and finish this off with you. So 17, we're using color A, and we work a single crochet so we know we're in the right place. And then we go ahead and do 2 X's into those loops that are missed below. And then we skip the 2 stitches behind, single crochet, work an X. So you can see this is the same as row 9, and we just alternate across until we get to the end. Okay, and this row finishes off, and then we work a single crochet, chain 1, turn our work, and we're now working our last wrong side row. So I always end my work working a wrong side row so it balances out. So at the beginning, there were 2 rows of blue, so at the end, I want to work 2 rows of blue. That's how I work my squares. You don't always have to work that last row, not every chart requires it, but in this case, because we want a nice little square to make a coaster out of, we want to work that last wrong side row. So we're coming up on the end, and we finish off our last stitch. And we can cut our yarn if we'd like, and that'll be the end of our square. You can see it from the wrong side, it's all stripes. And then from the right side, you can see the pattern. And see how along this edge, I carried the yarn up that edge. I usually finish my squares with a round of single crochet that goes all the way around. You can find that one in one of my tutorials. I'll leave the link for that one in the description below. But in this case, we'll just look at it finished. So we've got a beautiful little mosaic grid going on here. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe to my channel. And you can find me creating over on Instagram at jspcreate.crochets. Enjoy making your mosaic crocheted squares. I'll see you next time.